Twitter announcing moments ago that it's suspending InfoWars from its platform for the next 7 days. This, of course, follows InfoWars' founder, Alex Jones, having his personal account suspended yesterday for violating Twitter's content policy. This all comes in the wake of several other social media companies and Apple removing Jones's content.
Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey sitting down with NBC's Lester Holt to discuss whether suspending Jones will be enough to change his behavior.
I feel, any suspension, whether it be a permanent one or a temporary one, makes someone think about their actions and their behaviors. And
you think Alex Jones is going to change his behavior based on a timeout?
I don't know. We have found that it does have the potential to impact and change behavior. So whether it works within this case to change some of those behaviors and change some of those actions, I don't know. But this is consistent with how we enforce.
You can catch more of that interview tonight on NBC Nightly News. But joining us now to discuss more on this is Alexis Ohanian. He's the co-founder of Reddit and VC fund Initialized Capital. Just finished ringing the closing bell at the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center in San Francisco. Alexis, good to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
Why don't you react to what Dorsey said and just the bigger picture as well about what all of these companies are now faced with, this sort of new territory of how to deal with content, trolls, and everything else, frankly.
Yeah, well, you hit the nail on the head. It really is a new territory. And I think Jack's right in that one of the effective ways we've seen to enforce content policy is through a trust and safety team using a combination of humans and software to essentially create these timeouts, to create bannings, to do things that are necessary to enforce the rules of the site itself.
I mean, he told his followers, Mr. Jones, to arm themselves with battle rifles to attack the press. And Jack Dorsey's giving him a timeout? That sounds right?
I can't speak to the content policy of Twitter or any of these platforms specifically. I think this is an important discussion to have right now because, this speech is not new to social media. We've heard this before on every other medium, from television to radio to whatever before that. But I think what's changed now is it's so visceral and so real time, and being able to adapt to it requires different things than we might have needed, in an age of radio or television even after that.
But you can probably speak to, Dorsey seems to think that a, quote, timeout would work. If you were still running Reddit, I mean, would you face this issue with trolls? It's not a new issue for you personally. Do you think you need to be much more harsh to enhance, even save the user experience? Once you lose that, as you know, Alexis, what do you have left?
It is really important, and I'm no longer day-to-day at Reddit, but from my position on the board, I'm consistently pushing this idea that we need to make Reddit a home for as many people as possible, and that means telling some people that they don't have a place here. And the way you do that is through policy and through the enforcement. And so, yeah, it's going to come down to these platforms deciding what their policy is and then how they're going to enforce it. And the hard part is doing it consistently. And that's the most important part, because as you said, unless you enforce those rules consistently, they have no meaning.
I mean, is there a company that you think, besides Reddit, that's doing this right? It looks like Apple was the leader on this. Facebook's trying to figure out how to do it, but they did pull the content. Spotify pulled the content from Alex Jones, and now Twitter's doing this suspension. I mean, which is the right way, and what should form that opinion?
Frankly, I think it's too early to tell. There are a lot of these platforms that are still figuring this out as it goes. I mean, the scale with which this is happening and the speed with which this is happening is certainly without precedent. Seeing more and more people coming online through social media. I think there are lessons to be learned from all of them, and I think it is absolutely right for a company to be thinking about its long-term interests. And like I said, in the case of Reddit, the long-term interest there is trying to make sure that anyone feels like they can find their home there, and that does mean telling some people they don't belong.
So what is it about the electronic billboard business that has you so excited right now that you're investing in it? Maybe that's the free speech. Not all of us got billboards for giving birth, as your wife did.
I joined the board of AdQuick, which we were one of the first investors in with Initialized, largely because I felt like this was a huge opportunity for out-of-home advertising, which has never really entered the digital age, but yet should. So many of the efficiencies we've seen in digital advertising have never really come across to out-of-home until AdQuick. And yeah, I found that, at least in my life, whether I've been doing political activism or romantic gestures, billboards, well placed, very strategically, can produce some really great ROI in terms of awareness and buzz, and I think made my wife happy as a nice romantic gesture too.
Yeah, you made husbands everywhere look bad, and fathers.
They just got to step up their game and hop on AdQuick.